Right, oh yeah, welcome back. Okay, FoXDaWG 14 today. I'm going to get stuck into the paint on those heat shields and the exhaust, which is why I've got the heater running, because I need to bang it up to 24 degrees centigrade in here, ready for this. So I'm going to use this VHT high temperature black paint, suitable for exhausts, manifolds, barbecues and all that sort of thing. It's a flat black colour, which is probably going to be too flat, but there's a simple remedy for that. All you do once it's completely cured is buff the bats out of it with a nice microfiber cloth and you get a satin finish instead. So that will be easy to get it exactly how I want it. I'm trusting this because I've used it before. I know not only is it great for the temperature resistance, but also it's extremely hard. This stuff goes like Teflon, and that's great because it also needs to be boot proof. In that area at the front where the forward controls are, your boot touches it now and again, so I don't want it getting damaged in that area, and this is the stuff to trust. Now, you can buy this if you want. Other paints are available. This was £14 for 2 cans. It is expensive, but you know the score. It's a false economy to buy the cheap stuff. It doesn't work. Ordinary barbecue paint's okay, but I found it does tend to go white over time. You get kind of a greyish flat colour to it. This stuff stays nice and black, and that's what I want it for and why I paid extra money. So that's it. Get that done. I've got to get the metal prepared, get a little booth set up, get all the metal cleaned and completely chemically safe, and then start with a tack coat and 6 wet coats after that. This is old school, not like the old tough paint. This doesn't work with just 2 coats. It's got to have it old school, and I've got to layer them up thin coats at a time, and the final coat at the end of the day will be the wet one, the real heavy coat that floats everything out. It's quite a process. I've done it loads of times, but it's still touch and go. You can get it wrong and bugger it up, so wish me luck. I'm going to try and make the best job I can of this, because that's the same as the rest of the bike. I really want a high-end outcome when I'm done. So there we are. Let's shut up waffling. No need for a windy intro on this one. Let's get into it. Right, okay, now at this point I want to say thank you to a couple of guys. The professional paint guys out there, it seems, are always watching. You're always watching, you're always sending your advice, and I so appreciate that, I really do. A couple of you reached out simultaneously and said, look, that sheet that you keep nailing up on the wall, apart from the fact that loads of you said, stop nailing it on the wall, you'll end up through to next door, and get some Bulldog clips. Yes, I appreciate that, thank you, that would be a great idea, and I should have done that. But a couple of the pro guys said stop using the sheet altogether, because it's building up a collection of paint dust from previous jobs, and as it builds up it's only going to take a tap against it or a little gust of wind, so it just moves and out comes all the dust and it starts landing on your current job that you're doing. Absolutely right. What they suggested, professional guys, use plastic. First generation, brand new out the packet, no dust on it, clean plastic, and put it on the wall. Now yes, okay, it's single-use plastic, and yes, okay, we all know that's the devil's spawn and we shouldn't use single-use plastics, but that's the nature of the beast when you're doing anything in this environment. Changing oil, old brake pads, old brake linings, anything that you do with vehicles leads to responsible recycling. So all this plastic, when I'm done, will get properly sent to them. We've got a local recycling plant, and they take single-use plastics and they deal with it in a responsible manner. It gets shredded and it gets turned into road surfaces or something. So all this will go to the proper responsible place when it's done with. But for now, that's apparently the right advice according to professional paint guys. Use clean plastic as your mask. Don't use sheets, because sheets build up dust and that dust will go on your job eventually and make you cry. So, and yes, it would. So there we are. Now I've got to degrease all this. Dust is the first consideration, obviously, because it just makes an ugly finish, but wax is Satan's spawn. It truly is. It's just evil, because as soon as you get a bit of wax on there or a bit of grease or even a bit of moisture from talking in front of it, that's going to make little tiny fish eyes, little tiny dots here and there, and no matter what you do, the paint won't cover them. It will just make a little ring around them and it will show them off nice and shiny, and that really is irritating. So there's nothing you do about it. You can keep laying over it all you like, it won't go anywhere because that little piece of grease is there. So I've got to degrease them. I'm going to use brake cleaner first and then paint thinners as a final coat, the strongest chemicals I can on bare metal. I've got a nice buffed key on it, nice scuff on there, so that should work quite well. That will hold the paint really nicely, and once it's degreased completely I can start on that. So there we are. Got to get stuck in today. The other thing is, if you want to use these, I found these 10 pence each on special offer. I went to B&Q, you know, the B&Q Home Depot place, Harris, the painting company ones, dust sheets for painting your house. These came in 10 pence each, so I bought 20 for £2. I've got loads, and that's the right way to go. But if you're going to use them, like I said, dispose of them responsibly, because they're single-use plastics. Okay, remember this. This is the coil cover on the Harley. Check out that finish. Now that is flawless satin paint. Absolutely flawless. Really, really pleased with that. That's how it came out. Now, obviously, I just want to give you this as a tip. I want to pass this on if it helps you, if you're going to do this yourself. You cannot teacup, polish, sand back or buff a satin or flat paint once it's finished and dried. What it is what it is. It stays, that's it. How the final coat goes on is what you're left with. Because obviously if you start polishing it, it becomes gloss. And you don't want that. You want a satin or a matte. That's why I'm using satin or matte paint. So the secret, the trick is to get that final coat, a liquid finish. So when you spray over that final last coat, I've done one tap coat on these, 15-20 minutes between coats. I'm leaving it half an hour now before the last coat because there's a lot of material on there now that's had a total of 5 coats. I'm going to put the 6th and final wet coat on that now. Now here's the trick. If you go too heavy with too much wet paint, then you can get the chemicals in the paint go down and reactivate and soften and liquefy everything that you've currently put on that's partially cured. As that happens, then it all runs, becomes like a big blancmange and all sorts sliding off, and you've trashed the paint job. So putting on just enough so it floats out, but not so much that it then reactivates everything and runs, because until it's fully cured, it will still reactivate. When you put the new paint on that contains liquid thinners, as that happens, the paint underneath it acts like a paint stripper and it softens it. So you cannot coat too much up, but if you don't put enough on, then you get a grainy finish and it dries grainy and it doesn't look so nice. So there it is. There's the sweet spot. There's the trick with getting satin and flat paints right. If you can paint satin and flat paints to that standard, honestly, then you can make gloss where you wouldn't even have to polish it. It would be so perfect. It's the same principles with gloss paint as well. If you get the same wet coat as the final coat, you barely even have to cut and polish it. It's absolutely superb, especially with clear coat. Clear coats, that's the trick with them, because you don't have to cut and polish them afterwards. If you then do still, then is when you get that absolutely stunning glass finish that I got on the fire paint job that Mackie did on the turbo bike. It just looks like liquid glass over the surface. That's what it's all about. You are not judged on how hard you work on something, you're judged on results. And that's what I'm doing with this. So I hope that helps you. The last final wet coat has to be just enough to float out, but not so much. It liquefies everything and makes it run. And I've left that half an hour now, so I'm going to mask up again, warming up the can over there, final shake, and bang over the final coat. And obviously never use the last of your tin. Leave yourself, if you can, about 1/3 of a can or 1/3 of a tin of paint. Never use it all, because obviously when you come to fit it on the bike, if you nick it or scratch it or chip it anywhere when you're refitting it, you've got a little bit of paint left, you can spot repair it rather than having to go and buy a whole new can at £7.50, which is really annoying. And yet I did learn that the hard way. So there we go, let's get the last one on. Okay, there we are, another day's fun and games. Absolutely chuffed to bits with that, a fantastic outcome. It didn't float out as much as I wanted it to, but I did put over that last coat as much as I dare. I didn't want to make that run, and it hasn't. It's absolutely flawless, as much as is possible. A slightly grainy finish to it, which is okay, because as I said at the beginning, I can buff that up and make it look nice at the end. It's just important that it has a good, solid, durable, resilient coat, and it has got that. There are 6 wet coats on there, 1 3/4 cans of the paint over that little amount of metal, so that's definitely going to do the job. Remember, this is heat proof to 800 degrees centigrade. You heat a piece of metal to 800 C, it's glowing red by then, so that stuff is definitely safe for exhaust. I put a thin layer on the inside, only really to protect that rust, to give it half a chance of not coming back too much, but I've always had a view that rust is rust, you can't unrust rust, it stays there and it's only ever going to get worse. So there it is what it is there. I did price them up, another little mistake I made. I've been referring to this business of punching holes as shotgun heat shields or shotgun belt guard. I made a mistake there, it's not, it's buckshot. And it's only because I looked it up. I hadn't looked it up for a very long time. It was about 8 years ago, back in the original garage, that I had a set of those punched out heat shields on that iron 883 that I had, and I think they are called buckshot heat shields, and I only did it because I looked them up in price. For a Sportster they're £290 for 2 heat shields. I think for the Dyna they're about £195. Absolutely outrageous, so I'm jolly glad they came out really well and I'm ever so happy with the outcome. I look forward to putting those on once everything's dried and cured. Now the next thing is going to be into some more of the chrome. I've got all sorts of bits and pieces that I got with the bike. I've got naked bare aluminium levers, so the chrome levers can come off and I'll put aluminium ones on. I've got black reservoir caps, I'm going to put those straight on. I'm going to change the grips from these kind of chrome and leather thingies to some just black rubber ones that will just look a bit more business-like, and a load more other stuff. A battery box is going to go black, that's certainly the side of it, and the back of the headlight. A few of you suggested that, I hadn't thought of it, so thanks for that, I like that. The rear section of the headlight, do that in black and leave the rim around the outside chrome. So again, it's just an accent and not a big chrome headlight, which is a feature. Liking it all the way, so thank you for the suggestions. Thank you most of all to the paint guys who reached out today and said about the plastic dust sheets. I really like that, it's a great idea. The bike is absolutely covered in dust there, you can see it, it really works, and you can obviously see that cloth sheets absorb that dust and they retain it, and one little puff and it's all in the air again, and that's not good. In fact, actually, it's a lot less dusty in here than it normally is when I paint, so there's something in that. Listen to the pro guys, they know what they're talking about. So there we are, thanks for that. Really appreciate all your support, everyone. It's fantastic, I love the comments, keep them coming. I'm going to update the board, look forward to the next one. Take it easy, ride safe. See you next time.